Considered by many to be the best video game of all time, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is one of those games that absolutely needs to be talked about on this show, Nintendo Classics. It is one of the most mind-blowing, phenomenal, groundbreaking experiences I've ever I've ever felt in any medium. Like, not just video games, not just literature, not just film, not just art. Like, this is one of those things that will probably never ever be topped. This is one of the most fully realized evolutions of gaming in the past, in the entire history of gaming. Like, you don't really understand. This is a game that came out in 1998 that feels more fleshed out, more compact, more sophisticated, more fun to play, more things to do, more items to collect, more enemies to fight than the vast majority of modern games. It's kind of impressive, really, how much this game in particular not only defined what a 3D action-adventure game should be, but rather still, to this day, 20 years later, remains at the peak of the genre. Like, even later entries in the series, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, and even the recent entry, Breath of the Wild, which is extremely groundbreaking in its own way, can't really match up to its legacy. This is one of those things that's never, ever going to be topped. Like, it is the Super Mario Bros. 3 of the genre, okay? Like, Super Mario Bros. 3 kind of peaked the 2D platformer genre. Like, it was all downhill from there. And with Ocarina of Time, you know, right out of the gate, right within the first couple of years of 3D gaming, Nintendo made something like this. A game about growing up, accepting new responsibilities, and defeating evil. Executed nearly flawlessly. There is not a single thing in this game that I would change. I would not change a single line of dialogue, a single temple, a single moment, like a single character. Like, everything about the game is executed amazingly. And I think one of the more impressive things about it is how appealing this game is to basically any group of Nintendo fans out there. You know, like, female fans tend to like the characters, the designs, the storyline of the game. They like the experience. They like the idea of, like, of this guy rescuing the princess. Younger fans can get into the adventure. This idea of starting out as a kid and then becoming an adult as you go along through the adventure. And older, more experienced fans can appreciate the incredibly intricate, well-designed 3D dungeons that even today hold up pretty well. Like, yeah, they're not nearly as complicated as the sort of things you'll see in later Zelda games, like Skyward Sword in particular. But this was the game that set the template for what Zelda games would be like for several years to come. Until Breath of the Wild came out, nearly every Zelda game was trying to be like this. You know, Wind Waker got a lot of flack for not being enough like Ocarina, right? Like, Twilight Princess was trying to be Ocarina, right? Skyward Sword was trying to get out of its shadow, right? Like, it took Nintendo a very, very long time to make a game that could distinguish itself from this title. Like, over 20 years, right? Almost 20 years, about 19 years from Ocarina to Breath of the Wild's release. Like, a phenomenally long time, right? And of course, all those games are great. Like, of course, I'm a fan of Majora, of Wind Waker, of Twilight Princess, of Skyward, of Breath of the Wild, of the Oracle games, of Link's Awakening. Well, that's an older game. All these other Zelda games that came out in between Ocarina and Breath of the Wild, right? Like, I'm a fan of pretty much all of them. But at the same time, none of them have recaptured what this game managed to do, of being a truly genre-defining masterpiece, a medium-defining masterpiece, I should say. Because this isn't just a Nintendo classic, right? This isn't just one of the best games Nintendo has produced. This is one of the best games that have ever been produced, period. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things that everyone looks back on and as a shining example of just how good gaming used to be 20 years ago, before PlayStation started ruining everything for everyone. This was the golden age of gaming. Like probably the last truly great video game from the golden age, right? Of the mid 90s. The decline was setting in around 98, 99, like around when PlayStation started taking off on the scene, right? The decline was very prevalent even then, with games like Final Fantasy VII and MGS being way more notable for being cutscene driven, for having voice acting, for having intricate storylines, rather than actually providing innovations in gameplay and design. You know what I mean? Like, it may seem like almost like a stupid story gimmick to have a Link turn into an adult through this game, but the way it's handled here, the way you have to go back and forth in time to like gather certain items and do certain things, and how the world is different, it really gives the game, not the story, an incredibly complex adult feel to it. Like, it's a really incredible moment when you first draw the Master Sword, you first become an adult, and you step out into Castletown, and you see what's happened into the world in the past couple of years, right? In the past 7 years, right? Like, you go to all these old locations and see just how Ganondorf has ruined things for everyone. Like monsters in Kokiri Forest. The townspeople from Castletown fled to Kakariko. Gorons are going to be fed to a dragon. The Zoras have been frozen. Malin is being forced to work as a slave. Like, all of these things aren't just story bits that tie together into this, aren't just story bits there to make you feel bad for the characters. They are a compelling aspect as to what makes playing the game fun. Because you do want to help these people. You do want to save the sages. You do want to like defeat Ganondorf, get the power you need to win, to beat the game. And when you finally do it, when you finally climb that tower, when you finally see Ganon's true form, it is a phenomenal experience. This game, I will be playing until I die. There are lots of Nintendo Classics games I say that about, but when it comes to Ocarina specifically, this is something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Like, this game is more than just special to me. It is an absolute legend.